Howdy folks, welcome to Cohesive Garage. I've got a iconic car here that I want to talk about, and it's the E36 M3. I do love this car. I have many thoughts and opinions about it, and I thought I'd share them with you because my opinion matters just like yours does. So leave a comment in the comments section because I'm uploading this to YouTube for sure. But here it is, M3. One of the more beautiful, elegant, stylish cars from the 90s. You know, late 90s, mid 90s. The sweep, the line over the car, you know, I kind of like it better than the E46, to be honest. And even the gray works with the gray and the black. And all the M3 wheels of this generation are just awesome. The DS2s, I think that's what they're called. Are one of my favorite wheel of all time. But so these cars kind of suffer from wheel gap in the front. This car doesn't look so bad. But we're doing the suspension today, so I'm pretty excited about that. But this front end is maybe one of my favorite front ends of all time. The freight train, I don't know, some people call it. But I just love the air dam, the air scoop. You put a lip on that and it's beautiful. The dual round headlights, kidney beans, I don't hate those. You know, the hood lines, the fenders, the fog lights. There's really nothing not to like. I love how it's nice and flat here and then it protrudes just slightly right there in the center. The mesh is cool. The brake ducts are actually functional. I mean, it's a really elegant design. Look how raked the windshield is too. Another thing I love is these small A-pillars. Look how thin that is. I mean, that's the mid-90s for you. Just from the back, it looks great. I had a 328i, and I think I prefer the side skirts on that. But another thing I prefer is the mirrors on the 328i. These are M3 mirrors, and people used to put these M3 mirrors on everything back in the day. The Hondas, the Dodges, you'd see these things on everything, and they're kind of silly. You can't see very well out of there, and I just think it looks better with a traditional mirror style. But yeah, a huge fan of this car. Let's step into the interior. Alright, so much to say about the interior. This car has side airbags, which is pretty ridiculous. Must be a newer car. Let's see, yeah, it's a 99 M3. But yeah, the door panels, they kind of tend to fall apart a little bit, especially in the earlier models. You'll have the clips failing, and some of the glue they use to hold these together will fall apart. Some of you might have experienced that. Here's the Vader seats. People love these. I think they're okay. A little overrated and expensive, but that's just my take on it. I don't hate those either, though. The console, the center console, the instrument cluster area. Look how cool that is. It's like a legit cockpit instrument cluster. Easy to read gauges. Three-spoke steering wheel is large, but that's good. I mean, it's comfortable. You know, your steering ratio is manageable. I like that too, and it's sporty as far as the shape goes. And don't forget, it's an M3. All of this is really accessible. You know, put an aftermarket stereo in here is a good idea, because these tend to have issues with all kinds of stuff. The heater controls, I like the manual ones. They fail in less ways, but this still works great, you know, when it works. All this down here, it's really interesting at best. There's a few interesting things on it, you know, the temperature, you know, your average speed, stuff like that. But again, these fail all the time, these displays. This car has heated seats, which is pretty awesome. You can turn a subwoofer on, traction control. The shifters are a little sloppy in BMWs. If you put a heavier shift knob on here, it'll work wonders. I really recommend a heavier shift knob to just, you know, when you say, I want to go in a third, it says, okay, here we go, and it just, the momentum just shoves it into the gear, and it feels less chintzy, you know, sloppy. You can also do levers that make it feel a lot better. There's a lot you can do here to tighten this up, to really give you a tighter, sportier feel, which is what I think is a little bit lacking in these cars. Stock, you know, the M's are pretty good. The 328s, 325i's are a little sloppier, but you do certain suspension bushings, shift kits, and springs and shocks, and you'll tighten this thing right up. But yeah, it has, you know, you can move the center console armrest, which is so classy. Like, yes, let's shift, pushing. But you're like, I'm gonna go hard. You move that back, and you just have all this elbow room. Except you might destroy it if you're as powerful as I. But cup holders are super cool. You can take these out and put other things in here. Slide them back and forth. I always loved the change holders. Look at this, boom. You know, so you can tip your waiter at the drive-through window. Yeah, back seats work. The rear trays, the partial shelf back there, they tend to fade in these cars, but you can put awesome stereos in this car, and that's what I would do. I wouldn't take this car to the track necessarily. I would put an awesome stereo in it and drive it on the freeway to go visit my friends out of state. Stuff like that, you know, drive it to work like the classy guy that I am. But for the track, my money is better spent on a small Japanese car or something more focused for abuse. I don't think you really want to abuse this car too much. But yeah, let's pick up the video underneath the hood maybe. Here it is, BMW's famous inline six. Fantastic motor. People, they get kind of upset that we didn't get the European spec M motor. But this thing hauls the mail. I love it. And it's reliable as all hell. You can find variations of this motor in all kinds of other BMWs of this generation and swap parts with it. Like the intake manifold, if you put an earlier intake manifold on here, you get like 20 horsepower right out of the gate, which is a great mod. And there's a bunch of little stuff like that that makes this a nice, simple motor. Like I said, readily available, and you can swap parts with it, and it's the bee's knees. And look at this Ecs Tuning Strut Bar. It's a little loose. I don't know. Maybe we can tighten that up, or maybe that's engineered, or maybe because the front end of this car flexes so much that it's just come loose. And I'll tell you, the front of these cars, they flex a lot. The chassis flex quite a bit. And the frames, you know, they're not the toughest, they're not the strongest frames in the world. You can see down there, and the way they design the suspension on this thing, it's very, very simple. But it works. It works. It's not the most sophisticated suspension, and I'll raise the car up and we can take a look at that too. But it handles great for what it is. And like I said, I would cruise this car everywhere, and when those corners come up, it's super fun to dip hard in this car. It's just not something that I want to do on a racetrack lap after lap without some serious modification. And speaking of modification, that's what it's in for. We have a special box over here sent by the Dinan Corporation. Can I call it corporation? Like they're a huge conglomerate organization of Illuminati. So yeah, it's springs and Koni shocks, and you get all of the Dinan expertise engineered spring rates and blue paint with these, which is great. And they really care. Look at this paperwork that they send. Congratulations, you know. good for you. You bought Dinan parts. Feel free to pause this and you can read some of this because it's actually very interesting. The engineers took time to really write up some good advice for setting up the car. And I agree with it. So feel free to pause this and read it because it's actually pretty insightful for basic car setup fundamentals. Highly recommend giving this a good read. And my favorite part here is they give you alignment and setup specs, which I don't know, is Dinan going to chastise me for posting this? But here's your alignment specs. Just basic alignment setup for an E36. So if you're taking your car to get it aligned and you have aftermarket suspension, this might be a good baseline to look into. So yeah, there's that. And then we're gonna put in some of this other fun stuff. I really like these trailing arm limiters. That tightens up things quite a bit. I don't know if we're gonna use all this, but yeah, and these go for the tower mounts in the rear for the shocks. I mean, they're just, like I said, for stiffening this bad boy up. So yeah, let's get this car in the air. Maybe I'll blab on underneath the car for a little bit, but yeah, thanks for sticking with me. So I'm about to lift this car up, and already I can tell I got my work cut out for me. There are some signs of rust on this car. So yeah, looking forward to that. This is the most unfortunate spotted. So let's get up in the air and see what we're working with. Damn. Droop travel for days. Yeah, so it's all true. The rust is real. The hype is real. Look at this bar. Damn near stick our finger through there. I'm sticking my finger in the bar right here. Look at this. Falling apart. Rusty. I do have my work cut out for me. Oh, disco party. Look at that. Gnarly. Can't wait to do some exhaust on this car. It's not too terrible. It's really not, but I mean, as you can see, this car has been somewhere where rust is an issue. The cancerous rust, yeah, along the frame here. You know, right where you're supposed to lift it up at, you know, kind of falling apart. But anyway, let's talk about the car. A miracle it's not covered in oil. This car has 170K on it, and it's dry. I mean, there's just a few little spots of oil around, and nothing serious though. That's pretty impressive. Good job, BMW, or whoever was servicing this car back in the day. So yeah, this suspension, I mean, stupid simple. It's amazing. Lower control arm, pivot point here, rear bushing here, which is beefed up on the M model. And that helps a lot because these things fail and you have a sloppy ass front suspension. And outer ball joint, steering. And there's that strut. It's basically the upper control arm, you know, it's just a shaft, and that strut rod is extra thick because, I mean, it takes all the vertical load, you know, when it wants to tilt this way, forward and back. The strut's responsible for that load, and that's pretty amazing that they get away with that. And a lot of cars have taken this approach to building suspensions because it's very cost effective. And when you get it right, it's right. And BMW has been using this system forever. So they have got it right. And they're still using a very similar setup in most of their passenger vehicles today. And it has a pretty good multi-link suspension setup. These bushings are notorious as well. You can really stiffen up the car with replacing those or putting limiters in or whatnot. But that crazy inboard spring on the upper control arm, yeah, it's a little interesting and fun, and we get to work with that today. Okay, one thing I'll say about exhausts on BMWs, and here is a testament. This is the original exhaust, I do believe, and it's still on the car. I mean, you could probably still take these bolts off and, you know, work with it. Let's see, is it aftermarket? I don't know. It looks like some welds here, but I mean, they use stainless for this. I mean, all this back here mostly, and it lasts forever. I mean, most other car manufacturers, this stuff would have been replaced a long time ago because of necessity, but on this car, it's really amazing that it's all still intact and probably going to be for another long time. So yeah, BMW puts money into their exhausts, and I like that they use these two-tube designs because that keeps it flat along the bottom of the car, but it moves a high volume. That's impressive as well. So kudos, BMW. All right, what else can I say? So maybe I'll do another video driving impressions on this car, and I'll end the video here for now. And yeah, I wanted to thank everybody who has subscribed to me, and thank everybody who likes my videos. And yeah, I'll keep them coming when I get something interesting and fun like this coming in. And yeah, have a wonderful day. Peace out.